The drums beat a frantic rhythm, a pulse against the suffocating silence of the village square. But for Amina the rhythm was a death knell. Her father, Tar, a man whose hands once held her with gentle strength, now raised a heavy ornate staff, its shadow falling across her trembling form. "For the harvest, for the wealth, for the glory," he roared, his voice a stranger's. His eyes, once warm with love, were now glazed with a terrifying fervor. This was the ritual, the price he was willing to pay. Amina's heart hammered against her ribs, a desperate bird trapped in a cage. Betrayal. Her own father, the protector, the provider, was now her executioner. Rejection. It echoed in the cold, unyielding gaze of the villagers, their faces a sea of silent approval. Abandonment. She was utterly alone, a lamb led to slaughter, her cries lost in the chanting of the elders. Humiliation. To be offered as a sacrifice, a mere object in a twisted bargain, stripped bare of her dignity and worth. Just yesterday life was different. Tar, though a simple farmer, was a loving father. Their small hut, nestled amidst the lush green fields, was filled with laughter. Amina would chase butterflies in the tall grass, her bright smile a reflection of the sun. She would sit at her father's feet, listening to his stories of brave warriors and mischievous spirits, her eyes wide with wonder. He would tell her she was his most precious jewel, his guiding star. But somewhere along the way the star had dimmed, replaced by the blinding lure of wealth. It started subtly. Tar's friends, once jovial companions, began to avoid him. Their laughter, once shared, became whispers behind cupped hands. At the village gatherings their eyes would slide past him, their greetings curt and dismissive. He felt the sting of their rejection, the humiliation of their pity. He was no longer one of them, no longer worthy of their company. Then came the hardship. The harvests were meager, the land unforgiving. Tar toiled under the scorching sun, his brow furrowed with worry. The little money he earned was swallowed by debts, leaving his family hungry and desperate. He saw the worry etched on his wife's face, the hunger in his children's eyes, and the shame gnawed at him. He felt like a failure, a burden. It was in this desperation that Chief Azuka, a man whose wealth was as vast as his cruelty, offered Tar a way out. A ritual, he whispered, a pact with the ancient spirits. Wealth beyond his wildest dreams, if he was willing to pay the price. Tar, blinded by the promise of salvation, did not hesitate. He saw only the solution to his problems, not the monstrous act it demanded. The old man at the edge of the forest, his eyes like burning coals, demanded a sacrifice, Tar's only daughter, Amina. The words were like a physical blow, a punch to the gut that left him gasping for air. But the seed of greed had already taken root, its tendrils wrapping around his heart, choking his conscience. He wavered, torn between the love for his daughter and the fear of returning to the abyss of poverty. Now, as he stood in the village square, the staff raised high, the drums pounding, he was a man possessed. His wife, her face a mask of horror, tried to stop him, her pleas falling on deaf ears. The villagers, their eyes gleaming with a morbid curiosity, held her back. Amina, her voice choked with tears, begged him to remember her, to remember their love. But the ritual had begun, the ancient spirits had been summoned, and Tar was no longer his own man. Just as the staff was about to fall, a cry pierced the air. It was a voice Tar knew well, a voice that had been silent for too long. It was the voice of his mother, a woman who had vanished years ago, whispered to have been taken by the spirits herself. But there she stood, her eyes blazing with fury, her frail body radiating an unexpected strength. "Stop!" she commanded, her voice echoing through the square. "This ritual is a lie. A twisted tale spun by Azuka to control this village." A hush fell over the crowd. Tar lowered the staff, his eyes filled with confusion. His mother stepped forward, her gaze fixed on him. "You remember the stories I told you, Tar? The tales of the ancient spirits? They were not meant to be feared, but respected. Azuka has twisted them, used them to manipulate your fear and greed." She revealed the truth. Azuka had orchestrated her disappearance, silencing her because she knew his secrets. He had used the ritual as a means of control, preying on the villagers' desperation and fear. The sacrifice was not a demand of the spirits, but a tool of his power. The revelation was like a thunderclap. The villagers, their faces now etched with shame and anger, turned on Azuka. He tried to flee, but they seized him, their fury unleashed. Tar, his heart filled with remorse, fell to his knees, embracing his daughter, his tears washing away the bloodlust. He was punished for his actions, imprisoned for his near sacrifice. But in the darkness of his cell, he found a glimmer of hope. He had lost everything, but he had also gained a profound understanding of his own weakness, his own capacity for darkness. He had learned the true value of family, the importance of integrity, the destructive power of greed. Amina visited him often, her eyes filled with forgiveness. She told him that the village was healing, that Azuka's reign of terror was over. She spoke of the lessons learned, the importance of questioning authority, the strength that lay in unity. Years later, when Tar was released, he was a changed man. He returned to his village not as a wealthy farmer but as a wise elder. He shared his story not as a tale of shame, but as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of love, and the importance of choosing integrity over greed. He taught his grandchildren the true meaning of wealth, not in gold or land but in the love of family, the strength of community, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. And Amina, his guiding star, shone brighter than ever, a beacon of hope in a world that had once seemed so dark. The scars of that horrific time remained, not just on Amina's young heart, but etched into the very fabric of their village. The once unquestioned authority of the elders was now viewed with a cautious skepticism. The whispers of ancient spirits still echoed through the trees, but now they carried a note of doubt, a questioning of long-held beliefs. Tar's imprisonment had served as a stark reminder. Blind faith could lead to unimaginable darkness. Life slowly began to mend. The fields, once neglected in the shadow of fear and superstition, were cultivated with renewed vigor. The laughter of children, once stifled by the oppressive atmosphere, returned to the village square, lighter and freer. Amina, though forever marked by the terror she had faced, blossomed into a young woman of remarkable strength and wisdom. She became a voice for the voiceless, questioning traditions that seemed unjust, advocating for compassion and understanding. One day, a traveling scholar arrived in their village. He spoke of distant lands, of different customs, of the power of knowledge and reason. He carried with him books filled with stories and ideas that were foreign to their isolated community. Amina, her curiosity ignited, spent hours listening to his tales, her mind expanding beyond the familiar boundaries of her village. The scholar spoke of a world where rituals did not demand human sacrifice, where prosperity was achieved through hard work and innovation, not through appeasing unseen forces with innocent blood. He spoke of justice systems based on fairness and evidence, not on the whims of a self-proclaimed intermediary between the living and the dead. Amina, remembering the terror in her father's eyes, the cold indifference of the villagers, the manipulative cruelty of Azuka, felt a stirring within her. A desire for a different way, a better way. She shared the scholar's teachings with the younger generation, encouraging them to question, to learn, to think for themselves. This new wave of thought did not sit well with some of the older villagers. They clung to the traditions they had always known, fearing that change would bring chaos and misfortune. Whispers of dissent began to circulate, accusing Amina of disrespecting their ancestors, of poisoning the minds of the youth. One evening, as the moon cast long shadows across the village, a group of elders confronted Amina. Their faces were stern, their voices filled with disapproval. They accused her of heresy, of undermining the very foundations of their community. "These are the ways of our ancestors," one of them declared, his voice trembling with anger. "We have always followed these traditions. Why do you seek to change what has always been?" Amina stood before them, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Our ancestors lived in a different time," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "They acted according to the knowledge they possessed. But we have learned more. We have seen the darkness that blind adherence to tradition can bring. Is it not our duty to build a better future for our children, a future free from fear and manipulation?" Her words sparked a heated debate. Some villagers sided with the elders, clinging to the comfort of the familiar. But many others, especially the younger generation, spoke out in support of Amina, their voices filled with the hope for progress. The village was divided. The old ways clashed with the new. Fear wrestled with hope. It was during this time of turmoil that Amina stumbled upon an old, forgotten chest in her father's hut. Inside, amongst his few possessions, she found a collection of intricately carved wooden figures. They were unlike anything she had ever seen, depicting scenes of daily life, of harvests, of celebrations. But there were no depictions of rituals, no figures representing the demanding spirits. Among the carvings was a small, worn wooden bird, identical to one her grandmother used to wear. A wave of realization washed over Amina. Her grandmother, the woman they believed had been taken by the spirits, had been a skilled artisan, known for her beautiful carvings. Suddenly, a memory surfaced, a fleeting image from her childhood. She remembered her grandmother arguing with Azuka, her voice filled with anger as she accused him of deceit. She remembered her grandmother showing her a hidden compartment in one of her carvings, a place where she kept secret writings. Driven by this sudden recollection, Amina searched her grandmother's old hut. Behind a loose floorboard she found a small leather-bound book. Its pages, brittle with age, were filled with her grandmother's elegant script. As Amina carefully deciphered the faded ink, the shocking truth unraveled. Her grandmother had been a respected healer and storyteller, a keeper of the true history and traditions of their people. She had discovered Azuka's manipulation of the ancient beliefs, his use of fear and ritual to gain power. She had tried to expose him, but Azuka, fearing exposure, had silenced her, spreading the lie that the spirits had claimed her. The ancient ritual that had almost cost Amina her life was not an age-old tradition at all, but a fabrication, a tool of Azuka's control. The wealth he promised Tar was not a blessing from the spirits, but stolen resources, accumulated through years of exploitation and fear-mongering. This was the unforeseen plot twist, the hidden truth buried beneath layers of fear and superstition. The disappearance of Amina's grandmother, once a source of sorrow and mystery, now revealed the depth of Azuka's deception and the true origins of the terrifying ritual. Amina shared her grandmother's writings with the village. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community. The elders who had so vehemently defended the old ways were, their authority crumbling in the face of this undeniable truth. The villagers, finally seeing the extent of Azuka's lies, were filled with a righteous anger. The path forward was not easy. Generations of fear and misinformation could not be erased overnight. But the seeds of doubt had been sown, and the light of truth had begun to illuminate the darkness. The village embarked on a journey of rediscovery, seeking to understand their true history, to reclaim their authentic traditions, free from the distortions of a manipulative tyrant. Amina, guided by her grandmother's wisdom and her own courage, became a leader in this transformation. She advocated for education, for critical thinking, for the empowerment of the community. She taught the children the importance of questioning, of seeking knowledge, of never blindly accepting the words of those in power. Tar, witnessing his daughter's strength and the village's awakening, found a measure of peace. His past actions would forever haunt him, but he dedicated his remaining years to supporting Amina's efforts, to atoning for his blindness by embracing the light of truth. The emotional intensity of their journey fluctuated, from the depths of despair to the cautious hope of a new beginning, from the anger of betrayal to the quiet strength of understanding. The life lesson that emerged was profound. True strength lies not in blind obedience to tradition, but in the courage to question, to learn, and to forge a path towards a more just and enlightened future. The chains of fear and superstition could be broken, but only through the unwavering pursuit of truth and the courage to embrace change. The village, scarred but not broken, began to write a new chapter in its story, one where reason and compassion guided their steps, and the voices of the innocent would never again be silenced by the lies of the powerful.